This is my biggest frustration with Retell's conversation flow. You've probably experienced too. I've rebuilt the same appointment booking flow 5 times for different clients. Yes, different industry, but same exact booking flow. And I had to build it from scratch every time because I can't just duplicate it because the whole rest of the conversation is different. So do I have to build this booking flow from scratch every single time? You used to, but now Retell released something called components. These are reusable sub-workflows for conversation flow. So that booking flow that you worked so hard on covering all the edge cases and making sure you were asking the right thing to the user, knowing what they would answer back. You put it in production, it was wrong, and now you had to refine it. You don't have to build it from scratch anymore. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a component from scratch such that you can reuse it in every single conversation flow. This is what we're going to cover today. What components are and how you use them, how these entry and exit nodes work, some best practices of when to use them, and how to use components across multiple agents, such that regardless of which agent this is in, you can learn from real-world calls, iterate and perfect this booking flow, and then it gets duplicated into every single other agent. But this is not just about booking flows. If you're built for a real business, you'll probably have to integrate with their CRM. And however many times you have to check the contact, modify the contact, get information about the contact, suddenly you don't have to create that series of functions over and over and over again. You can just use the component that executes that objective, such that you can just plug and play. And if you need that to be in multiple places in the conversation, not a problem. Let's say in this part of the flow, we need to check for the contact again. And if we step back, we'll see in one part of the conversation, we have that flow. And in a different part of the conversation, we have that same flow. So we don't have to copy all these 5, 6, 7 different nodes over and over again. The use case for today is going to be creating a full booking flow for a law firm such that it can book appointments for existing clients as well as for new clients. The big difference is that the new clients have to go through some qualifying questions before they're allowed to book an appointment. So we won't have to rebuild this whole thing twice. We just build it once, we can use it twice in the same agent and then across every other agent. Super excited for the potential of components. My name is Alejo, co-founder and CEO of Amplify Voice. I've been a data scientist and AI engineer for 8 years. And along with my 2 co-founders, Kevin and Paige, we've built a beautiful community of learners where we teach them how to build and sell voice agents. If you ever want to dive deeper into voice agents, if you ever get stuck, we're here for you. We have 4 live workshops and events and troubleshooting sessions every week. So come on over. I'd love to meet you in person and help you out. Now let's get into the video. I'm going to start a conversation flow from scratch so you can see my logic around how to use these components. I'm going to start with something very simple. Again, this is a law firm, and we want to identify new clients and existing clients. The new clients will be asked a set of qualifying questions, and after those questions, they can book an appointment. Existing clients can book an appointment directly. So we would have the agent say, "Hello, thank you for calling Amplify Law. Are you a new or existing client?" Now we're going to create the transitions. User is a new client. Then user is an existing client. Okay. If you're curious about how to build a conversation flow to begin with, this is going to be a more advanced tutorial. So I'll leave linked the conversation flow tutorial on how everything that you see over here works and how to build a great prompt for your conversation flow. Okay. So also when to choose single prompt versus conversation flow, very important distinction. So now let's say that for our use case, we identify that conversation flow is the right way to go. Now let's leverage these components. First of all, let's go with the existing client because it's going to be the most direct thing. We want to have a function, which is check calendar and then book an appointment, right? So we can create that whole flow here and we cover edge cases. What if there's no availability for tomorrow? What if? And we build that whole workflow over here. But what happens is Then in the other flow that will go, above over here, we're gonna have to build the exact same thing. And a lot of times, just connecting those two parts of the workflows create more issues than solutions. Because the existing clients and the new clients maybe have different endpoints. You can't just simply connect them. So a lot of times, just doing this will not work. That's where components come in. So I'm going to delete this check availability, and I am going to create a component. On the bottom left, I'm going to click on the plus to create a new component. I'm going to rename it into Booking Flow Lawyers. So this is what your initial component would look like. This is an entry to the component, and this is an exit of the component. Just make sure that you map out this workflow clearly. So Booking Flow Lawyers, I'm gonna put that in. It's really, really important you understand the use case itself, your client. What is their objective? If you don't understand that, then you're gonna build something that doesn't make sense, that doesn't add any value to their business. For today's tutorial, I just want to focus on the functionality of components, not creating a super realistic use case. So we're just going to have the user say whether they're a new or existing client. If they're an existing client, they're going to go into this booking flow. We're going to click on Edit Component, and we're going to start building it out. We're going to do a static sentence. We're going to say, let me check availability for you so I can book you in with one of our lawyers. We're going to do a transition. We're simply going to continue, because there's not really a condition here that we need to satisfy. And we're going to add a check availability. You would fill in the API key, event type ID, and obviously modify the description. Right now, I'm just going to focus on the component. If you're curious about that, you can go check my every Retell function you have to know, where I walk you through how to set all of the functions up. Every single function you see over here. For now, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to plug that in. The agent's going to check availability, and then we want to communicate that availability to the user. Say, continue, down, add, communicate the availability to the user, comma, but only for the next 3 available days. We want to prevent the agent from giving, 2 weeks of availability in advance. That's overwhelming for a human. They won't be able to know, what to respond. They'll get lost. This is part of that iterative process that I'm talking about. If you figure out, wait, I only want to give the 3 available days, but you built 5 different agents and have the same booking flow twice per agent, modifying that as you perfect your agents, that's going to be hell. With these components, we can have this in a library that then we can plug into any agent. And when we modify it here, as we perfect our flow, it gets modified in every other. Also gonna ask the user for their preference. Awesome. Cool. Then we are going to have a condition, a transition, if you will, which is the user says which time works for them, or, very importantly, none of the times work for the user. So see where it starts getting convoluted, and I haven't even shown you the complicated part. So the user says which time works for them. Let's start with the happy path. We're gonna add a function, book appointment. We're gonna fill in the details. We add, and let's bring that over here. Which appointment works for them. Then this function can succeed, success, or failure. Well, why would a function fail after we checked availability? Honestly, one of a million reasons. That's why, if you're curious about booking flows, go check out that function video. So let's say if it does fail, then we're just going to transfer the user to the reception. So bam, if failure, we just transfer to receptionist. But if success, we're gonna exit the component and go back to the main flow. Okay, so we're not quite done. This is just the happy path. Let's see if none of the times work for the user. What do we do then? We would want to add another check availability function, but not the same one, because we want to modify the description. check the calendar and provide available slots for a wide number of days. The next 14 days, say. For the next 14 days. Boom. Okay, so since the initial times did not work for the user, then we're gonna check broader. So we're just gonna plug that in. If none of the times work for the user, we're gonna go into that new check availability cal, and we're gonna call it wide. Then after that, we communicate the availability to the user, continue, okay. We're gonna plug that back in, communicate the availability to the user, but only for the 3 next available days. Okay, well, that's not what we want. So what if we change that up, we duplicate this node, and we specify this a little better. I'm gonna move things around, clean things up. We check availability, and then we're gonna communicate the availability to the user for the first available appointment of each day, each of the next 7 available days. Cool. Then let's think through this. If the user says which time works for them, then we're gonna book that appointment. But if none of the times work for the user after checking the calendar twice, let's just transfer to reception. And this is where repeating this flow across agents, not to even mention it within the same agent, is extremely tedious because you have to cover all these different edge cases depending on what type of booking flow you want to do. This would not work for you if you wanted to ask the user first what time they want and then check if that time works. But for either case, you can create a booking flow that first asks the user or first proposes times to the user. So we just make sure that all the transitions have a next node, which it looks like they do. Let's walk through this from the beginning and check if we need to modify anything. We enter that component, or let's go to the main flow. We begin, hello, thank you for calling Amplify Law. Are you a new or existing client? User is an existing client, okay. So we go into the booking flow, lovely. We're gonna go to edit components. Let me check availability for you so I can book you in with one of our lawyers. We check availability. I'm actually gonna check on this function because I think that there's something that could be better. I'm gonna call it 3 days. When users ask for availability, that's not true anymore. We are providing availability. So check the calendar for the next 3 days and provide available slots. I'm gonna update that, lovely. And this second check availability cal is actually 7 days. Okay, so we have the 3 days, the 7 days, lovely. Let's save that. Okay, let me check availability. We communicate the availability to the user, but only for the next 3 available days. Ask the user for the preference. Ask the user if any of the slots work for them. Lovely. The user says which time works for them. So we go to book an appointment. If success, we exit. Or if none of the times work for the user, we check availability again, but for 7 days. Then we continue, communicate the availability to the user of the next 7 days, and we're going to use that same. Okay, so we ask the user if any of the times work for them. The user says which time works for them. Thus, we would go to book appointment. And if it doesn't work, then we would transfer call. Same with if the booking appointment fails, we would just transfer the call to reception. And just to make sure we're diligent, if that transfer fails, it's a cold transfer. It should go through just fine. We're gonna add a conversation node and we're having some issues. I'll make sure that our receptionist calls you back. Thank you for calling. Okay, lovely. And then we would end call. So I'm actually gonna make a note to send this to Retell because in this situation, I can't actually end the call. This ending just exits the component. So definitely work in progress. I love the how they structured it out, how they make this work, but obviously it will get better over time. So we identified one thing there, which is we should be able to end the call even from a component. Okay, so let's say for now, we're gonna plug that into exit component. Okay, lovely. And this is our flow. So now you don't have to repeat this for every single agent. It's a massive breakthrough because you can save time, but also you can make sure that whenever you learn something from real world users about how your booking flow could be better for your industry, for the demographic of users that you speak with, now you can apply those changes across multiple agents. Or even for the same agent. Let's go back to our main flow. We got our booking flow just done. Let's go back to a main flow and let's talk about this new client. What about that new client? Let's say that ask these questions to the user in order. What do you need our lawyers to help you with? Is this related to any type of injury case? Which regardless if it is or isn't, different type of law firms actually really care, so they know whether it's appropriate for them or out of their area of expertise. What county are you located? These are the usual qualifying questions that a law firm would ask, and then after they ask these questions, we would have a transition, right? Let's say that it is, the user says this is related to an injury case. The user says this isn't related to an injury case. As you get better at conversation flow, you'll identify that we might wanna switch these around. So the transition doesn't happen too early, okay? You may transition only after the user answered all three questions. So let's say this is an injury law firm, so we can take this case, and now we can go ahead and book an appointment. So let's do that. Let's get you set up with one of our lawyers. And then what's gonna happen? We're gonna go into the booking flow. Again, a lot of times you don't wanna mix these two flows for new clients and existing clients, because there's stuff that happens after this for existing clients. Maybe the call to the CRM might be different because it's an existing user. So we don't want to mess with that. We want to grab that, but we want to obviously use the same flow. So we want to grab that component, booking flow lawyers, bam, and plug it in right there. Lovely. So now we're gonna book an appointment with that person, and after this flow finishes, we're going to end the call. We get right here, end call. So we booked an appointment, we end the call, but if the user says this isn't related to an injury case, we might tell them something different, like, we'll get you connected with the right partner law firm for you. We're gonna straight continue into ending the call. Boom, boom. Okay, and then finally, talk to you soon. So this is after booking that appointment, right? Communicate, book an appointment, and we might want to say, we might actually want to add something here, which is like you're all set up for date and time. Cool. Okay, this is really taking shape. Okay. If success and book that appointment, we're gonna say you're all set up for date and time. Boom, boom. Now this modification I did, that creates a better user experience. You're all set up for date and time, and then goes into talk to you soon, and then we can end the call. That improvement of the user experience now gets applied here too. We can edit this component and see that got added right there. So although this is a simplified use case, it really captures the essence of components. It not only saves you time, but also makes sure that any improvements that you do to any flow get automatically applied to any other agent. Okay, so I'm really excited to see what the whole community creates with this. I just want to run a few ideas by you that I think that could really work if this is something related to a use case that you have been working on. Number one, identity verification sequences across multiple agents. Address collection. We're talking about any repeatable conversation pattern that you use frequently for one or many clients. And to me, the most tedious one, checking if a contact exists in a CRM. When we work with clients, we usually do multiple agents for those clients. And if that verification, identity verification and checking CRM, doing modifications in CRM can just be a plug and play component that gets all the information that it needs, uses the functions to communicate with the CRM, interprets the information back, maybe even adds some dynamic variables that could look like, let me show you, right? Before you exit the component, you can extract variables that then you can use in your main flow. All of that is very powerful. Now, there are some situations where you would want to keep this flow completely local. You wouldn't want it to be shared by with other agents, or the other way around. You want to create a different flow or modify this flow, but just for this agent, not for every other agent that you have in production. Well, important to know that if you publish this and then you modify the same component in a different agent, that published version is not going to change automatically. If you want that published version to change, if you changed a different agent, then you're going to have to publish it again. But more often than not, once you published it, you want it to work that way. So if you turn this off and then click turn off, this is going to create a copy, a local copy, that if you go to components, your blue components are going to be shared components across agents, and your agent components are going to be your local copies. So now this changed from blue to green. This means that this booking flow lawyers is this local copy, not this shared copy. So I can edit this component, and any modifications I do on here, because it's the green copy, the local copy, they're only going to happen for this agent. So that's something important to keep in mind as you change, for example, API keys of your functions. You don't want them to change for every other agent. So you can create a local copy and do the final modifications there. So that's a very reliable way to save a lot of time, not having to duplicate work, but ensuring that any modifications are safe and not doing any unintentional modifications to any other agents. But let's say you do want to apply those edits to other agents, you can save this component back into the library, and you'll have two. Just make sure you rename them correctly. You can essentially create a version control, call this booking flow lawyers 2, or be more specific ideally, and create different versions or upgraded versions. And you can choose when they stay with one agent or when they're shared across agents. And finally, I do have to warn you, make sure these components handle one job. Don't have them handle everything, because, the multiple of your agents do a bunch of the same things. So you just have one full agent essentially in one single component. Don't do that. It's actually going to create more problems for you than solutions. So it's booking flow, collect an address. You can have multiple components that you use across agents, but just keep it very focused. So to recap everything we just covered, components are reusable sub-workflows that help keep your agents more maintainable and consistent. You can create components directly from your main flow by clicking on the Components tab and then the plus button, or directly from the bottom left by clicking the plus. Always make sure that your sub-workflows have an entry and they're connected to an exit node. And finally, if you want to keep some changes local, like you're changing API keys, just turn this off first, then make the changes, and those changes will just stay in this one component. These green components are the local ones, the blue ones are the shared ones. These, if you change the API keys in this bottom one, it will apply in this top one, right? But because it's green, those API keys won't change across agents, which for API keys, you usually want to have, an agent directed with one set of API keys, and that's why you would make a local copy. But your global copy can essentially work as a template. So with just a couple of modifications across agents, you can save hours while keeping the highest quality of flows that you've done. For example, what does the best booking flow look like for you, for your use case, for your industry? Once you crack that, you can have that live across all agents. If you found this useful, it's your turn to build your own component. A lot of this is muscle memory. You saw me go super fast. It's because I've done it so many times. And to get to that level of fluidity, you need practice. And to get practice, you just need to start. So I'd love to hear in the comments below, what is the component that you're planning to build? What came up? What is that light bulb that turned on for your own conversation flows? And I want to give a huge shout out to Retell for sponsoring this video. They are truly always on the edge. And it was an honor to be asked to record this video for this new feature. We actually got to meet the Retell team in person when we were in San Francisco a few weeks ago. So shout out to Bing and Evie. Thank you guys for really listening to your community. That for you might need more guidance than just, a video and just trying it yourself. That's why we set up the Amplify Voice community so we can come learn together. In fact, we have a build hours happening in 37 minutes. You might miss this one, but you don't have to miss the next one. So come join us, get your 7-day free trial, and let's build better together. Subscribe to stay tuned to the future videos, and remember to never stop prompting.